Headlines with Sam Francis.
Hello and a very good evening to you. Just after 11 o'clock, the top story today. We are going to be taking a look at the commemorations in London today as the capital marked the 20-year anniversary of the 7/7 bombings, with a service held today at St Paul's Cathedral, where the names of all 52 members of those who died were read out by families. Survivors and the royal family joined together as thousands with white petals fell from the ceiling of St Paul's Cathedral. Prince William among them also laid flowers at the Hyde Park Memorial, along with the Prime Minister and the London Mayor, Sir Sadiq Khan, who held a minute's silence at the site of that bombing. King Charles paid tribute to the spirit of unity that they held the capital, helping them heal after those attacks. He also said the horrors of that day would never be forgotten, but nor would the courage, the compassion and resilience that followed. In Texas, meanwhile, the death toll has now risen to at least 95 after flash floods ripped through Kerr County in the early hours of Friday. At least 27 girls and staff from a Christian summer camp were among the dead, with dozens still missing and search efforts now into a fourth day. President Donald Trump has signed a major disaster declaration as questions mount over whether warnings were timely or effective. More storms are also on the way, with flood alerts in place through the night. And Donald Trump has also today reignited global trade tensions by slapping 25% tariffs on imports from Japan and South Korea. The move ends a 90-day pause and revives Trump's hardline stance, accusing both countries of unfair trade practices. The US president is now turning his attention to the BRICS alliance, warning that any country supporting the bloc will face an extra 10% tariff with no exceptions. A former Conservative cabinet minister has defected to Reform UK, calling it the party that now best represents his views. David Jones, who served as Welsh Secretary under David Cameron, ends over 50 years with the Tories, saying the party no longer reflects his values. He becomes the most senior ex-Tory MP to join Nigel Farage's party, but insists he has no plans to stand for election. And mobile phones across the UK will sound a loud alarm at 3 p.m. on the 7th of September, all as part of a nationwide test of the government's emergency alert system. The 10-second drill is the second of its kind, following a 2023 test that failed on some networks. Alerts are designed to warn the public of life-threatening dangers like severe storms or floods. Ministers are urging the public, especially vulnerable groups like domestic abuse survivors, to prepare, with opt-out info available on the government website. A new resilience action plan and pandemic preparedness update is also set to be unveiled. Those are the latest headlines for now. Do join us again tomorrow morning from 9:30 for all the latest from the newsroom. Now, though, let's head over to Patrick.
Welcome along to Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition. So let's do all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and rattle through them. So the front page of the Metro, they've gone for mushroom murderer targeted me 4 times. This is the fascinating, if not slightly morbid and weird case of a lady who was found guilty of killing her relatives by poisoning their meal with a deadly mushroom. We'll talk about that. In other news, we've got the Eye. They go for 50,000 children will be lifted out of poverty due to a rebellion on welfare reform. So they are clearly praising the Labour rebels ahead of what could be another Labour rebellion about children with special educational needs. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. The Daily Express, hypocrisy of Labour's homes plans. Well, the Daily Express dared to do a little bit of digging, and they found that Labour's current plans to build 1.5 million new homes are actually in certain areas where some of their MPs previously opposed building new homes. So it's a little bit like the Greens with the old solar panels and everything. They want them elsewhere, but not in their constituency. So let's go to the Telegraph. This one will get you going, I think. No borders between us, the King tells Emmanuel Macron. So it's a funny turn of language, isn't it, given that the whole point of this state visit is supposedly to sign off on a one-in, one-out migration deal between France and Britain, a deal that, by the way, looks to be in tatters because the European Union doesn't want us to do it. But is the king getting political again? Is the king actually some kind of open borders eco-warrior fanatic? We'll discuss. Let's go to the Sun. Big one this for Prince Andrew. Air Miles Andy cleared for takeoff. So he is going to no longer be in self-imposed travel ban exile from the United States because the FBI appears to have dropped the investigation between him and notorious international paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. So I suppose that's good news for Prince Andrew. We'll talk about that in more detail. The Daily Mail, hand back our 771 million quid, Mr Macron, s'il vous plaît. They're even resorting on the front of the Daily Mail to speaking French in a bid to try to get Macron to give us our money back for not policing the border. The Times, PM to press Macron for one-in, one-out deal. Again, just to stress, if you've not already heard it, it looks as though Italy, Spain, Cyprus, Malta and I think a couple of other countries are going to oppose Britain's one-in, one-out deal with the French, which means that it probably won't happen. So that's good. The Guardian, bosses face ban on non-disclosure deals that silence victims of abuse. Their sidebar story is also about a potential fear that massive Labour donor is going to revert back potentially to the Tories. Which begs the question, why did he bother in the first place? Their picture is of the mushroom murderer. Right, my panel this evening, GBNews contributor and comedian Leo Kearse. We've got journalist and broadcasting royalty Christo Foufas and political commentator Andy Twelves. Let's start by zoning in on both the Telegraph and the Daily Mail because it's kind of similar stories there. Do the Telegraph. The new line this evening is the King is apparently going to tell Emmanuel Macron that there are no borders between us. Well, part of the problem, Christo, is that we know there's no border between us.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you may as well tell Macron that Diana's dead because, I mean, there is absolutely no difference to the news. This is no news at all. You know, because there are no borders because, as has been pointed out on this show and many others, literally, what is it, 170,000 people have crossed on small boats. And fair play, Friday they burst one. They burst one boat on Friday. They popped a boat. Yeah. And that's been about it. And so I don't know what's going on with the King, because did you... Obviously, I know that you covered his statement about 7/7
yes.
and all of this, and we mustn't let any kind of, anything divide us. I mean, I would have said that probably, bombs on the tube would be quite divisive. However, he's now going on all about this. I don't know what's going on with the King. Who's advising him? Who's telling him to say this nonsense?
What do you reckon, Leo, about the King?
Yeah, I mean, he is getting political, as you mentioned when you were talking earlier, because he's saying, we're not going to have any borders around Britain, no borders between Britain and France, but there are big borders around King Charles's palaces and armed guards around his palaces. I wish my country had the same level of security, the same level of border control as Buckingham Palace. And I think it's a luxury for King Charles to be saying, we should have open borders, we should have this idealistic dream where anybody can walk in and out of this economic zone that used to be called Britain. It's a luxury belief because he knows the negative impact of that, the grooming gangs and all the rest of it, the terrorism, anything else, is going to, and the suppression of wages is going to fall on poorer people. It's not going to affect him one little bit.
Imagine the money they'd save on security if the King just moved into Glastonbury. Yeah. Then they could just use the same fence, same security. They wouldn't have to double up on it,
and he's about the same age as most of the people who go there.
And wealth.
I think it's I mean, it's shocking to me that the King is out of touch. Who could have seen that one of the richest men in Britain would be out of touch? But I think it is a bit unfair. I mean, the actual quote that this comes from is, our two countries face a multitude of complex threats emanating from multiple directions. These challenges know no borders, no fortress can protect us against them this time. It's kind of, I think the Telegraph shockingly grasping at straws here a little bit for a headline.
One thing I will say on that is that of course the Queen, our late Queen, bless her, was always said, there was the subtle messaging there meant everything. So there was no stone unturned. There was always something slightly behind the actual fact of what she was saying, the direct quote. Now, bearing in mind that this meeting between Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer tomorrow is supposedly really to be all about stopping the migrant crisis and the one-in-one out thing, that choice of language about there being no borders between us, I would suspect is a bit of a nod to the idea that he's not particularly pro-border.
Yeah, and for him to be saying this at this time when the country feels like it's teetering on the brink. We've had, the outbreak of civil disorder, not just last year related to Southport, but in Ballymena, in Portsmouth over the weekend. We're seeing people really at the end of their tethers, and they've tried to engage with the political process process. They've tried to engage with the police and local authorities to deal with the issues they're getting from illegal migrants and people like that. And nothing happens. They just get called racist. So they know that the only way they can affect any change is sadly to engage in direct action. So for him to be saying this as we're going into the hottest time of the year, where with tempers frayed, I mean, this is a powder keg.
And it's the thing that you were alluding to with the late Queen was the subtlety of her messages. There's no subtlety here. I like the King, I do, but I feel like he uses a sledgehammer to crack a walnut, because he could have made a much more subtle speech about how we'll always be friends as a nation. Suck up a bit to Macron so that he actually does what we want, rather than this sort of no borders, which directly affects exactly what it is, the favour we're asking.
I'm at pains again. I say this all the time. I'll say it again. I think I am very much a big monarchist. I am in favour of the King. I was certainly in favour of our late Queen and all of that stuff. So I don't want to have an unnecessary go in. My concerns with the King is always whether or not he's getting good advice. I don't think he was advised particularly well when he, had things like the iftar in Windsor Castle, or when he was doing a huge amount of stuff for Ramadan, but not mentioning that much about the Christian festival of Lent. I don't think he's being advised particularly well here. I don't think he's being advised particularly well when it comes to things like the environment and changing his job description to incorporate all that. I worry that he doesn't understand what will ultimately dictate the future of the British monarchy, which is really British people wanting it to continue, and maybe he needs to do a bit more to appeal to his base. But if we whiz ourselves onto the front of the Daily Mail, and Andy, I'll start with you on this. This ties into the notion, really, of whether or not we should be sucking up to Emmanuel Macron at all, because we've handed him about 771 million quid to directly deal with the borders crisis. I've been over there, as I relentlessly keep banging on about. They've not even put a fence up between the largest camp in Calais and the sea. So, why shouldn't we get our money back?
I mean, the Daily Mail speaking French on the front page. That only ever happened in Keir Starmer's Britain. I mean, wow, this is huge. I think, there is no doubt, I think, across the political spectrum that French have taken the mick out of us. We've sent a lot of money over and we've got very little for it. I think we've seen a bit of hope in the last couple of weeks, with the stabbing videos, these, not stabbing people, stabbing boats. I think, that actually does look quite good and looks quite effective. But I think, some may say that's just their sucking up before the state visit. I think if that was to continue, I'd be quite happy with it if it was stopping the boats coming over. But something's going to happen. I mean, there's a lot of corruption in that French border force. That's objectively true. I think it's just, how do we come to an agreement with the French where it's mutually beneficial?
Well, just imagine your expenses at work are £771 million. I mean, why aren't we saying, can you just give us a breakdown, please? Just where did some of it go? Maybe you print out a receipt on your little calculator. Where did this money actually go? Because, as the story alludes to, only 4% have been deported. 172,255 small boat migrants have reached Britain since 2018, when we started giving them the money. I'd like a little breakdown, maybe, of where the money went.
Yeah, well, I think the British public would. And again, should Keir Starmer not endear himself a little bit like that scene out of Love Actually? Okay, unfortunately, it was Hugh Grant playing the Prime Minister, but anyway.
Why unfortunately? Hugh Grant's a great actor.
I don't like him.
Why?
I just don't like him.
Top man, great hair.
Hugh Grant was an ice cream he'd eat himself.
Yeah, there you go. There's that stuff. Anyway, we digress. But, should he not stand up next to Emmanuel Macron tomorrow, instead of giving him a big hug and, shaking hands with his wife, and then, should he not stand there and go, look, hang on a minute, you're taking the mick out of us money-wise, and you're flooding us with illegal migrants?
You're forgetting that Keir Starmer's favourite thing is giving away British wealth to overseas. Look at the Chagos Islands. Look at all the LGBTQ queer pride events we fund in Mogadishu and wherever else. It's his favourite thing. He's probably loving it. He's like some sort of... it's almost like a fetish.
So he will say to Macron, thank you for taking the money.
Yeah, do you want some more?
And he'll have a briefcase full of it, like Deal or No Deal or something.
He'll say, do you want some more? We're going to put taxes up again so you can have some more. And it's hard to tell if there is corruption and waste in France, or if it is just them being lazy. It could be a bit of both. I want to see Brigitte Macron. I want to see Macron's wife down on the beaches beating up some of these people. Never mind the knives.
It'd send a signal, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would send a signal. And she looks... I've seen her.
Good frame on her. Good frame on her. Yeah. I think it's ridiculous though. In this story, it's Chris Philp. It's Chris Philp being quoted. Do you know what I mean? The man, he's Shadow Home Secretary now. He was a minister for years. under
Yeah,
the Tory
yeah,
government.
I
I
agree
think
with that.
just the brass neck of the Tories lecturing anyone. I think, reform can maybe have a leg to stand on. The Lib Dems maybe, because they weren't in government. I think Chris Philp, your man, was I think he was in the Home Office. I think he was a Home Office minister. It's ridiculous.
Wasn't every plan that the Tories had, like the Rwanda plan, was stymied by the Home Office, was stymied by the Lords, and was stymied by Labour?
They were bad plans.
No, they were great plans.
Rwanda plan, the Rwanda plan, it was going to leave a less than 1% chance that you were going to get deported.
Yeah, but what you do is you change it, so there's a 100% chance.
Regrettably, international law does not allow
Yeah,
that.
but hang on a minute.
We don't need international law. We're Britain.
We do need international law, regrettably.
Well, if
I mean, the international law that holds up the Good Friday Agreement, that holds up workers' rights, that holds up, people's right not to get tortured in this country.
If international law allows one of the ringleaders of the Rochdale grooming gang to shred his Pakistani passport and avoid deportation, whilst using British taxpayers' money, it would appear to go and build a house back in Pakistan so him and his family can go and live in it.
International law actually doesn't allow that. The issue is Pakistan aren't actually.
We can't make him stateless.
So the issue is Pakistan aren't co-signatories to the international law that prevents statelessness.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
Just fly him out there and dump him because we're too afraid of international law.
But that's the issue. It's not. No. The issue is it's not. Britain's not in the wrong here. Pakistan are in the wrong because they're the ones that allow their citizens to go stateless. So that's the issue.
Why don't we suspend all aid, all visas to Pakistan, and just
Well, I think if we suspended all visas to Pakistan, then our health and social sector would collapse. I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay, well, anyway, I know that you love this sort of, let's blame the Tories from a year ago.
Well, it is the Tories' fault.
I agree, they were rubbish, but what have Labour done? What have your precious Labour done in the last year?
What, in regards to border force?
Small crossings are up 40% year on year. I mean, this kind of smashing the gangs, let's go and treat gangs like terror. I mean, how's that worked out for you?
I think, we're getting to a position where the issue is actually getting dealt with. To be honest, I think
where the issue, small crossings are up.
Well, I think that, with genuine asylum claims, you've got to set up due process. They're setting up the due process. Then the international law would... It takes a long time, in fairness. I mean, the Tories have been in power for, 14 years? Well, they had small boat crossings for 5 years. They did nothing about it.
You can answer a question without saying the word Tories.
I disagree, as the Tories would, as the Tories.
Let me jump in here, because this time... Well, this show obviously also goes out first thing in the morning, before breakfast. I imagine a lot of the build-up tomorrow is going to be about the state visit between Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer and the King. So will we be getting any remotely strong words at all from Keir Starmer about the fact that the French have taken us for mugs and coined in £750 million and still continue to flood us with illegal migrants and signed us up to a deal that they knew full well EU countries were going to oppose? So there we go. Anyway, coming up, big day for Prince Andrew. Yes, could Air Miles Andy be back? He's back, baby. Some very good news has emerged for Prince Andrew. It's on the front page of The Sun, and we're going to reveal it in a moment. And it involves Jeffrey Epstein. Stay tuned.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GBNews Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
For working class families, what are the fundamentals that they are looking for? They're looking for good housing, they're looking for good schools, they're looking for good jobs that give them a fair day's wage for a fair day's graft, they're looking for a strong NHS, and they're looking for safe communities to live in. When you have all of those foundations in place, then it means that children, young people, they can flourish, they can do well alongside their parents and their grandparents. And I think if you look at what this Labour government has done, we're 10 months into a 5-year programme here, by the way, but in the first 10 months of this new Labour government, they have put major policy reforms in place across all 5 of those key foundations for working class families. And so I'm confident that we're starting to see some of it here in Basildon, where Basildon is starting to get better again. I'm confident that by the end of this Parliament, because of what the government is doing now, we will start to see some positive changes for working class families.
OK.
OK. Christo, what do you make of it?
I think that Bridget Phillipson makes a very fair point when she says that white working class families and those peoples are being left behind. But unfortunately, her actions as Education Secretary don't align with what I believe are these completely hollow words. So, for instance, we've seen white working class boys particularly, but now girls, falling behind in education for absolutely years. So why Bridget Phillipson would then bring in a policy that is seeing, by the latest figures, 13,000 private school pupils entering the state school system, why on earth she would bring in that kind of policy, whilst then having the audacity to say that she's worried about white working class pupils not doing so well, is beyond me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. We're going to zone in on what's on the front page of The Sun, because it appears to be quite good news for Prince Andrew. So The Sun have...
It's not a sentence you hear very often, actually, nowadays, is it?
Well, certainly not in the same sentence that involves the words Jeffrey Epstein. Actually. So Air Miles Andy cleared for takeoff. Leo, would you like to try to talk us through this minefield?
I always knew this guy was innocent. I can't believe people were suggesting smearing his name. You know, a good prince of the British Empire. No, I think he was innocent, and yeah, I think this just shows it. I think he's so innocent he should do another Newsnight interview.
With Mateless?
A Panorama interview, yeah.
Do you reckon?
News Agents podcast.
Just
I'm looking forward to that.
Just to properly draw a line under it, you know, I think the last one went really well.
Well, quite, yeah. I mean, that was...
Get him on the sofa here.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, there's room for him. I'm just going to read some of the details. So Prince Andrew can end his self-imposed travel ban and return to being, quote, Air Miles Andy, and presumably return to the United States as well, because the FBI is closing its investigation into his Jeffrey Epstein links. The terrified Duke, terrified, has been hunkered down at Royal Lodge. And
Royal Lodge, which has about 7 bedrooms in it, like
I'd like to hunker there.
Yeah.
I'd hunker there.
It's not like he's in a bed sit in Brixton. Do you know what I mean? Like he's on the royal estate.
Well, part of the reason he isn't is because he just refused to leave.
Yeah.
And I think the optics of King Charles turfing out his own brother. But now...
Well, maybe the Renters Reform Bill, Angela Rayner could actually get him out now.
Well, possibly. but this is interesting, though, because, look, if the FBI have, as it appears, said he's innocent, then... that's quite a big deal, isn't it, Chris?
Well, I mean, he still hung out with, you know, I think he was charged at the time. He still went and walked around, did a walk around.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. He still went with a walk around with a charged paedophile around Central Park. Like, that's still not what you do as a royal prince.
As the interview said, if there's anything, he's too honourable. And
just give him a call.
He was too honourable, and that's why. Look,
just give him a call. Go, Jeff, mate. I don't like what you're doing with kids. We can't hang out anymore.
Right,
like, so don't go to Central Park. Stay at his house and hang out with him.
If you are a royal, there are very few. I love the royals. I'm also a monarchist, but there are very few of them that have a brain cell because they have everything done for them. Like they have their toothpaste put on their tooth.
Is that why he's been cleared?
Everything, every single thing done for them, and so he's not a smart man. He's never had to be because he's never had to think. So of course he went for a little wander around.
I'm sure Prince Andy would deny that.
Oh no, he's thick. I mean, it's as thick as 2 short planks. William's got some intelligence. Harry, honestly, so stupid. An amoeba is probably smarter. Charles, not very bright. The Queen, she was clever. But he's thick, and so you can't convict someone for being thick.
I just get confused at what the Sun are trying to achieve with this front page, apart from selling papers. Like, are we meant to feel bad for the royal Prince Andy who can go and off in his taxpayer jet? Are we meant to feel happy, sad, angry? Like, what's the point of the front page?
That's an interesting point, because, whilst, by the way, I completely agree with the fact that no one should ever have been hanging around with Jeffrey Epstein and knew it. I mean, and I think the best case for Prince Andrew in this is that people think he was just a bit thick. So, right. But does this imply that he wasn't fairly treated? I mean, the whispers from behind the scenes of the Royals was that he only paid off Virginia Giuffre because it was one of the Queen's late wishes that she just wanted it all to go away. Yeah. That involved him, and cry him a river here, selling his chalet. Was it somewhere like Verbier?
Oh, God. Could you imagine?
But
oh, my God.
Sort of had this strange remortgage arrangement with it, where
could you imagine?
someone else money.
People in the UK freezing to death and he's had to sell his chalet. Oh,
realistically, and let's be honest about this now, Prince Andrew had to deal with the entire world. It's essentially alluding to the idea that maybe he had engaged with girls who were underage, claims he has always denied vehemently. Well, maybe he's been right about everything.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously paid her off because he's just a nice guy and likes helping.
It's great dude. Great
damsels in distress. And, to accuse him, to ask why he went to that island. I mean, if you're on that island, you look to one side and there's Bill Clinton, the other side there's Bill Gates, in front of you is Stephen Hawking. You're going to be like, well, this must be fine. Look at all the people who are here.
Notoriously, nobody famous ever done anything wrong.
If indeed they did happen to be there, which we don't know, and we can also say for sure that Prince Andrew, look, as I said, clearly not a smart man, not a nice man at times, but never convicted of anything. Anything. I mean, we are innocent until proven guilty.
Should we just play a little clip of, I think we can play a clip of that toe-curling interview that he did with Emily Maitlis. Here it is.
I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time.
You see,
if you lie with dogs, you get fleas. The way you can stop being accused of being a pedo is not hanging around with pedos. To be honest, if he hadn't have gone out of his way after Jeffrey Epstein was charged, went on a walk around with him around Central Park, he wouldn't have probably got as much.
In fact, the son have used that picture.
To be honest,
in fact, the son have used that picture, and I must say, I do think that is a fair point. I think hanging around with somebody who is a notorious international weapons-grade paedophile is not a good way to make people, not a good way to further your reputation.
But you should work in PR with advice like that. That is good advice.
Well, or as it turns out, the royal family, because no one was telling him not to. By the sound,
I think it's easier for us to all sit here and say that because we didn't get an invite to that island.
Would you have gone if you got invited?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, God.
Are you mad? On a private jet?
Patrick, would you?
No, not if I'd have... Well, no, if I'd have... The problem is...
Here we go.
The problem is, I would have probably had absolutely no idea who Jeffrey Epstein was. I just thought, this billionaire's just invited me to an island. And I got there and been like, everyone's here is a bit young, aren't they?
You can just go for the buffet.
They're not a bit young, but, anyway, right, coming.
Anyway. I've ever been asked in a paper review, would I go to...
We didn't answer. Would you have gone?
Island.
Would you have gone, Krista?
My luggage allowance wouldn't have allowed me to go that far. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. Of course, like most lefties, you claim not to have gone, but in reality, you'd have been there. Anyway, coming up, mobile phone alerts, yes, and how airport staff make money from fining you. Plus, Labour's housing hypocrisy is revealed. So apparently Labour in real trouble. What?
So was that a luggage allowance story about...
It was, actually, yeah.
See, it's all aligning.
It all links up. Stay tuned, we've got some massive news coming your way for late editions. Stay tuned.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We will see some heavy showers clearing overnight, but clear spells and largely dry weather return by dawn, increasingly sunny and increasingly warm during the next few days. Now, we've got low pressure clearing to the east. That low pressure brought us some unsettled weather over the weekend, cool conditions as well. It continues to bring heavy showers overnight to eastern parts of the country, some thunderstorms and some persistent rain. But further west, largely clear and certainly more widely clear by dawn. Under those clear skies, a fresh start to the day on Tuesday, temperatures ranging between 8 and 13 Celsius. But plenty of sunshine around first thing, certainly across central parts of the UK. Start off with barely a cloud in the sky through the Midlands and central southern England. Either side of that, there will be some patchy cloud into West Wales, southwest England, and some showers running down the North Sea coast into East Anglia. Thicker cloud awaits across parts of western Northern Ireland, and that cloud also starting to drift into the Western Isles. Some patchy cloud into the north of Scotland, otherwise Scotland's largely cloud-free. Plenty of sunshine, and that sunshine causing temperatures to rise quickly through the morning. But there will be further showers into eastern England. They tend to fade away by early afternoon. Still some cloud here and thicker cloud across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. A few spots of rain associated with this. High teens in the northwest, where we've got the sunshine elsewhere, low 20s to mid 20s fairly widely. And then we start Wednesday with plenty of sunshine once again towards the southeast, thicker cloud towards the northwest, some outbreaks of rain, mostly light and patchy for western and northern Scotland as well as Northern Ireland. And that tends to fizzle away later in the day as higher pressure builds, and that higher pressure is going to lead to widespread sunny skies on Thursday and into Friday, and that means widespread hot air returning.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Well, just before I tell you about all of the front pages, do you know what this sound is? Are you terrified yet? Are you scared? Well, you should be, but I'm going to reveal that at the end of this section, so stay tuned. Now, though, Daily Express front page, they've gone for hypocrisy of Labour's homes plan, ministers' double standards. So Labour, as we all know, want to build 1.5 million new homes, and they want to do it pronto. Of course, there is a question about who the heck lives in those homes, but anyway, we'll leave that for later. Now it's turned out, shock horror, that Labour ministers have previously opposed developments in their areas. MPs are accused of double standards over setting the national new housing target for this Parliament. I mean, Christo, colour me shocked. More hypocrisy here in the Labour Party.
Yeah, and they don't want any of these houses in their own backyards, do they? And they want to keep them all probably in the areas where the infrastructure is under strain as it is. And actually, I am reminded there of a story on the front page of The Telegraph as well about how John Lewis planning to build hundreds of flats, but there's a big risk of them overwhelming GP surgeries. NHS officials have now warned. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing the government trying to screw up building houses, and we're seeing huge corporations trying to build rental houses to make money because private landlords are being shoved out the market.
It's almost as if what we really need is fewer people, or fewer unproductive people. If we could just get some of the people who are coming across the channel, some of the people who are, coming here in chain migration and things like that, are just sucking up lots of benefits and want the social housing. And I think the way social housing is funded, so if a developer builds a new block of nice flats, they have to build social housing there as well. So that means if you buy a new flat, you're not just paying for like, some social housing, you've also got to live next door to them. And surely the whole point of getting rich is that you can move away from them.
That's why they're called poor doors. But you're almost suggesting that there needs to be a basic grasp of supply and demand for this government.
I think the issue is a lot of, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, the supply and demand hasn't been fulfilled. They're building these 3, 4, 5-bedroom houses. That's not where the demand is. You need starter homes. You need apartment blocks where younger couples can buy them. They're building these 4, 5-bedroom homes. I think they go hand in hand. I don't think you can be building 5-bedroom houses and going, why are only older people buying them? Younger people can't afford them. Well, that's the issue with the spiralling cost of living crisis. You've got these private developers taking the absolute with house prices.
No, they're not taking them in.
They absolutely
have to, because they've got to buy the land at a very high price.
I don't think
they buy the land at a high price. Well, because there are so many people, land is.
I don't think private developers should be building houses. I think that should be down to the new combined authorities.
Of course,
I think it should be because they're taking the absolute mick.
You want the government to be in charge of building houses and
Before Margaret Thatcher sold them all off,
show me what part of the state is so well run that you think the government should be allowed
I think the passport office is pretty good. I think the passport. You said one. You said one.
Well, yeah, the problem with our passport office is that we're giving it out to too many people.
Very good, Patrick. Very good,
I don't think private developers.
No, I think.
What about doing your own, doing a loft conversion? Should I not be allowed to do that?
Good for you, but I don't think you should be able to.
Conversion?
I don't think private developers should go to post-industrial towns, buy loads of land that used to be inhabited by English workers, build loads of expensive housing, and sell it to people that can't afford it in the area. I don't think that should be allowed to happen. No, I think that's gentrification to a T.
You don't think?
I think gentrification is like, I'd love to see some gentrification in Britain. We seem to be having the opposite.
Yeah,
getting worse. Everything's getting worse.
I think a lot of GBNews viewers that live in post-industrial towns are quite tired of people that live in cities and work in cities coming to live in their towns, not contributing anything to the local economy, contributing nothing to the local community.
No, I'm
coming in and out.
I think they're much more concerned about people who weren't born in England coming and moving into their towns, to be perfectly honest with you. Parts of like Oldham and Blackburn and Bury and all of that.
Love us.
And who let them in? Who let them in, Patrick?
Well, no, I agree. No, I agree. I've been as critical of all that as anyone could be. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what these Labour MPs do, because they will have spent the last however many years probably complaining about issues with wildlife and the environment, about building in these areas. They'll have been complaining about, all sorts of stuff, blocking planning developments in their own areas, and now they're going to have to do it. And now they're going to have to run into contact with the eco-mob, they're going to have to run into contact with planning laws, all of this stuff that they decided that they didn't want to deal with is now going to happen. But can I just whiz us on, because this is a story that I think is really annoying. So millions of mobiles in the sun. Millions of mobile phones will blast out a deafening siren as the government tests its emergency alert system, designed to warn people of deadly storms, floods, or terror threats. The alarm is going to last around 10 seconds and it will sound even if your phone is on silent. The new bit of this story is that they have just revealed when this is happening. So you ready? It's 3 p.m. on Sunday, September the 7th. So 3 p.m. Sunday, September the 7th, your phone is going to go off. 87 million people. So how many people we got in Britain at the moment?
Yeah, those are the devices. Some people have got more than one phone.
Sorry, thank you. 87 million devices across the UK are going to go nee-nor. I don't know, is this the sound? Have we got the sound? Have anyone got the sound? I think there we are.
Looks like when Prince Andrew's in the building.
Right, OK, yeah, good. But I'm sorry, is this not, Chris, is this not just designed to scare the bejesus out of old people?
Well, yeah, think about shift workers as well. Like, I used to work nights and, I'd be sleeping at 3 p.m. The last thing I want is that going off like a klaxon.
And genuinely, they're saying, look, if you might be a victim of domestic abuse and have a phone hidden or something like that, and, your abuser's going to go, oh, what's that noise?
Or you might be a drug dealer.
Yeah. And does anybody think about them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to spend more time thinking about them. I hate this because, of course, they're saying it's going to be if there's some sort of catastrophic flood or nuclear war or emergency, but how long? Within a few years, it's going to be, there's a bit of drizzle outside. Let's do the emergency alarm. Oh, the temperature's 22 degrees outside. Oh, let's do the emergency alarm. You can turn it off, in settings.
But
I do.
Surely they could do. They don't need to test it on 87 million devices. Can't they just go, this is the system that we're going to use, let's test it on 1,000 of those devices. Yeah. If it works for them, it's going to work for the rest of them, isn't it?
This is what they said about pandemic trials, though, wasn't it? They were just like, we'll test it with parts, and then it all went.
Are you in favour of this?
I'm not really in favour or against favour.
Klaxon?
I think it's quite catchy. I think it's very like Hunger Games, isn't it? Very Squid Game. Do you know what I mean? It's like
it does have a post-apocalyptic or sort of nuclear war feel.
The Purge. Yeah, that's what it is. It just reminds me. It's like, but to be fair, if a nuclear war was happening, I just want to go. I wouldn't want to worry about it for 10 minutes. Just let me go.
And just embrace the white flash.
Yeah, because if you don't know, it won't hurt you, because you'll be dead by the time
it... Think about an asteroid.
Well, it might just burn your skin off. But if anything really bad, really newsworthy does happen, you know about it straight away. I remember when Amy Winehouse died, people were leaning out of the window and telling people. So, you'll know anyway.
There's a nuclear bomb coming.
Shut your windows.
But by the way, Back to Black is brilliant.
I don't know. I mean, for me, my concern is that it's part of basically a wider scale scaremongering thing. I mean, we were told conscription might be a thing, and then, you know, watch out for World War III and the nuclear threat. We're buying planes that have got nuclear-tipped missiles on them, but we're not going to be here anytime soon, so watch out for that. You know, all of this stuff, threat, cybersecurity, everything. Yeah. It just feels like we're being kind of prepped for stuff, and then your phone blares off and goes, this is a test, but, you know, watch out. This is going to scare people.
And also, it's almost like the next COVID. They're getting us ready for war with Russia. Because they know that nobody really wants to fight. Because who's going to go abroad to fight for a nation that we're told isn't even ours?
Can't we get this alarm next time Labour want to introduce some new legislation? Because that worries me more.
Can you turn it off, the alarm?
Yeah.
How?
You go to... if you've got an iPhone, this is.
Yeah, here we go.
You go to settings.
Yeah.
And you go to notifications. And then at the bottom of notifications... You've got all of your apps.
Well, good. Do think about. I've just been told that we're not really supposed to be showing people how to turn it off.
Yeah,
don't. You can look it up very easily how to turn it off.
Yeah, don't turn it off, because if something serious happens, you will want it. You will want it. You will want it.
Just make sure it's turned on.
Yeah. If you want to make sure it's turned on, then go to and then scroll down to the bottom. You've got extreme alerts and severe alerts, and you can make sure both of them are clicked on. Make sure they're clicked on, and then that will make sure you get that really annoying noise.
You'll never have to miss an alert again. There you go, you see. I don't know. I just also think it's a bit creepy that the government can access my phone anytime they want.
Why is it? Well, no, it's not like they're not on your WhatsApps, are they? You know what I mean? They're just calling you, going,
what's up,
alarm.
I just find it a bit. I don't like it. I just don't like it.
You'd be so agitated if you were hanging as well. If you were hanging, you sat there in a splattered mess on your sofa, and that starts going off, you'd die.
Wouldn't help with the paranoia, would it?
It wouldn't hear it.
Let's be honest. OK, right. So we've got a lot more coming your way. For those of you wondering why you might not be fancying a beef Wellington anytime soon, this is the front page of the Metro. This is a just unbelievable story, really, about a lady who murdered people, her relatives, by preparing them a deadly meal that involved mushrooms. She basically killed them with poisonous mushrooms. You would have thought in that situation, which is indeed what happened, that she didn't get away with it because, of course, she didn't die. So she cooked the meal, gave everyone the meal, loads of people died, she survived. I mean, it's not really the crime of... It doesn't take Poirot, does it, to figure that?
Yeah, and also it says, mushroom murderer targeted me 4 times. It's like, you went back. You went back from... You're like, maybe this time she's not going to try and poison me.
In fairness, he was married to her. Are we doing this now? Or are we
no, we're going to break. But, but you need to stay tuned for this, and don't eat any mushrooms, especially not around a gap. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat wave across Europe is increasingly becoming confined to eastern areas of the country. Temperatures here could locally still be 5-10 degrees above normal for the year. On the edge of that heat, though, there are some heavy thunderstorms breaking out for the Balkans and over the Alps. Generally further towards the west, though, temperatures now ease back towards average, but northerly winds bringing a touch of cloud to parts of Iberia, as well as Madeira and Tenerife. Generally, though, for many areas over the next few days, there will be a lot of sunshine around.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
So we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
So, welcome back. Now, you might have heard a guest earlier say that Policy Exchange were involved in fraudulently making up receipts against mosques. Now, I want to clarify that he was referring to allegations made in a BBC Newsnight investigation from 2007. Policy Exchange strenuously denied those claims at the time, calling them both libellous and perverse. And as far as we are aware, they were never proven to be true. So it's important to get that out there. Right, OK, so now, returning to the front pages, the Metro. So this is I mean, it's a terrible story for the people who died, but mushroom murderer targeted me 4 times. This is the...
it's the ex-husband.
It's the ex-husband of a woman who has just been convicted for killing a series of people.
Yeah.
With mushrooms. Go on.
She killed 3 people. She attempted to kill 1 person who survived, and this guy and the person who survived. This guy is basically her ex, who she had targeted many times before. And he was actually invited to this dinner where she cooked with these mushrooms, but he chose not to go because of the spreadsheet that he'd made of the meals and times he'd felt ill before. So he was like, hey, I think I'm going to cancel going. So he cancelled going, so he didn't find himself. Now, the reason I know all of this is because the BBC has very usefully done a family tree of all the people that were targeted. It's like the worst episode of Who Do You Think You Are? You could possibly find, unfortunately. And they're all on there, and it's an unbelievable story of how she did this.
So this is an Australian lady called Erin Patterson who's been found guilty of murder after a jury concluded that she deliberately served a deadly meal of mushrooms to kill 3 of her former in-laws. It was a 9-week trial in Victoria. The 50-year-old was convicted over the deaths of Don and Gail Patterson and Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson. They all died following a beef Wellington lunch. A 4th guest, Pastor Ian Wilkinson, survived after weeks in hospital and a liver transplant.
Jeez.
Yeah. But of course, she didn't die. So she would all get ill. So she was at this meal, didn't die, didn't get ill. It's obviously her, isn't it? She should have got a bit ill. She wanted to get away with it.
Yeah, would you not be suspicious why the person who cooked the beef Wellington isn't eating the beef Wellington? It's a very fancy, very difficult thing to cook. It's very difficult to cook well. It doesn't sound like she cooked it well in this case.
No.
But the beef is always dry. So I would have been safe. I wouldn't have eaten it. And yeah, if you're foraging mushrooms, I assume she was gonna have the excuse of I foraged for mushrooms and I picked the wrong ones,
which was blown out of the water by her internet search history, which said that she had searched for poisonous mushrooms. So again, let down by her own idiocy there.
Yeah, the real crime is being stupid enough to get caught, truly.
But of course, the latest line is this husband thing, because her ex-husband, who didn't go to the meal, because that wasn't released to the jury at the time of that wasn't released before the
he got
trial.
silenced. He got silenced.
Yeah, because of the illegal glitch, basically, which meant that no one knew about his spreadsheet on Excel that he'd come up with meal, date, symptoms.
Could he not have warned the others? Do you know what I mean? Could he not have warned the others? It's like, hey guys, I know you're just going round for a nice meal at Erin's.
Take sandwiches.
Take sandwiches. You know.
Did he not live with her?
But because it was
at
an
the time.
ex-husband.
Oh right.
But it's her former in-laws that she killed. You know, you would have thought you'd be spreading the word far and wide. If she invites you to dinner, just on account of the 4 times she's tried to kill me with food, then maybe you don't want to eat there.
Was it always with mushrooms, or was it sometimes with other things? Is there a motive?
Well, she hates.
To be fair, I've had dinner with my ex-mother-in-law a few times, and that was.
God.
You know, I do relate.
Does she watch Fan of the Show, is she?
I don't know, Rachel. You're right.
Okay.
You know, I think it's just. I mean, what is there to say on this? It's just nuts, isn't it?
The great thing about ex is you
yeah, good, very good.
you don't have to have dinner with them. So you know, if your exes,
if they're exes, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, don't worry about trying to kill them. Just don't
don't hang out with them. Yeah.
They're quite handily called death cat mushrooms, Christo. So again,
which is, I mean, the clue is there, isn't it? The clue is absolutely there. But it's just the most bizarre way to choose to try and pop someone off.
Yeah.
It really is, because you say she didn't eat the meal herself. Obviously, you know, she had this person that she invited that didn't then come. It is such a bizarre way, and then she didn't basically get ill. So it's really, but it has gripped basically Australia, this, by the way. It has been absolutely
the world.
Huge story over there.
It's nuts. You know, Simon, the ex-husband, twice close to death in hospital. Did he not kind of...
Yeah.
Did he not say anything?
Well, this whole story's mad, because apparently prosecutors are now, even throughout all this trial, you said, what's the motive? They have acknowledged that she has no clear motive.
Yeah, and also the way she got them to the lunch was to say that she'd had the cancer diagnosis. So
my gosh!
Did she have cancer?
No, it was a lie. But in order to get them over, so I want to have this lunch because I'm not well.
That's not even the worst thing she's done.
No,
you know,
so it's
terrible.
Absolutely mad. And like you say, no motive.
No. Right, sorry, I'm being shouted at, and rightly so, because we need to give you one final recap of tomorrow, or today, if you're watching us in the morning, front pages. Mushroom murderer targeted me 4 times, the Metro, just on that. The Eye, 50,000 children will be lifted out of poverty due to rebellion on welfare reforms. The Express, hypocrisy of Labour's homes plans. Labour ministers have basically blocked home developments in their own constituencies, apparently. The Telegraph, no borders between us, the King to tell Macron. This is all going to be the big news tomorrow. The state visit between Emmanuel Macron and us. Air Miles Andy cleared for takeoff, says The Sun. Apparently the FBI no longer investigating his links to Jeffrey Epstein. The Mail, hand back our 771 million quid, Mr Macron, s'il vous plaît. And The Times, PM set to press Macron for 1 in, 1 out deal. The Guardian, bosses face ban on non-disclosure deals that silence victims of abuse. Well, that is all we've got time for tonight. Thank you to my wonderful panel. Tremendous to see so many of you watching and listening online as well. Great to see that. Thank you for all of my guests, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We will see some heavy showers clearing overnight, but clear spells and largely dry weather return by dawn, increasingly sunny and increasingly warm during the next few days. Now, we've got low pressure clearing to the east. That low pressure brought us some unsettled weather over the weekend, cool conditions as well. It continues to bring heavy showers overnight to eastern parts of the country, some thunderstorms and some persistent rain. But further west, largely clear and certainly more widely clear by dawn. Under those clear skies, a fresh start to the day on Tuesday, temperatures ranging between 8 and 13 Celsius. but plenty of sunshine around first thing, certainly across central parts of the UK. Start off with barely a cloud in the sky through the Midlands and central southern England. Either side of that, there will be some patchy cloud into West Wales, southwest England, and some showers running down the North Sea coast into East Anglia. Thicker cloud awaits across parts of western Northern Ireland, and that cloud also starting to drift into the Western Isles. Some patchy cloud into the north of Scotland, otherwise Scotland's largely cloud-free. Plenty of sunshine, and that sunshine causing temperatures to rise quickly through the morning. But there will be further showers into eastern England. They tend to fade away by early afternoon. Still some cloud here and thicker cloud across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. A few spots of rain associated with this. High teens in the northwest, where we've got the sunshine elsewhere, low 20s to mid-20s fairly widely. And then we start Wednesday with plenty of sunshine once again towards the southeast, thicker cloud towards the northwest, some outbreaks of rain, mostly light and patchy for western and northern Scotland as well as Northern Ireland. And that tends to fizzle away later in the day as higher pressure builds, and that higher pressure is going to lead to widespread sunny skies on Thursday and into Friday, and that means widespread hot air return.
Expect a warm front moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to GB News Tonight. With me, your host, Martin Daubney, on tonight's show. After a huge public backlash, the government is finally set to publish data for foreign benefits claimants by nationality. Now, with foreigners costing British taxpayers £7.5 billion a year in universal credit alone, that means there could be some huge headlines in Britain. And trust in Labour's border control is at rock bottom. And now Sir Keir Starmer's flagship one-in, one-out migrant deal with France is facing the axe from the European Union. Plus, Armed Forces Day was celebrated nationwide this weekend, but one Labour-run council stripped the parade of uniforms and equipment, fearing it might glorify war and spark protests. You couldn't make it up? That's all coming next. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Brace yourselves for another Chris Hope exclusive. We've got a cracking exclusive. Get into its usual ways. gbnews.com/your say is the way to do it. There. Brace yourselves for that chopper exclusive. But first, here's your latest news headlines from Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good evening to you. Fast approaching 2 minutes past 7. The top story, well, the names of the 52 victims of the 7/7 London bombings have been read out today at a memorial service marking 20 years since those devastating attacks. Families, survivors and first responders gathered at St Paul's Cathedral, where white petals fell as the names were read by loved ones. 4 candles were also carried through the cathedral for each site of the bombings in 2005, which killed 52 and injured over 700. King Charles and Sir Keir Starmer called for unity as events across London paid tribute to the lives lost. Well, our royal correspondent Cameron Walker has been in central London for us today, and in Hyde Park, a ceremony took place there.
Well, here in Hyde Park, it was a very intimate and moving service attended by Prince William alongside survivors and the families of the 52 victims who lost their lives that day. And we heard from a number of the guests, including a sister whose brother was killed on the Aldgate train. We also heard from a doctor who was on that train, injured herself, but helped a number of the victims. Prince William also attended a private reception after he'd laid flowers alongside a number of those family members, and he spent a lot longer than was scheduled, actually, spending time with them inside Hyde Park, remembering the 52 victims who have lost their lives.
Well, I'll bring you an update on the situation in Texas after those flash floods in just a moment. But first, a breaking line coming to us from Reuters. We're hearing that a British ship in the Red Sea has been attacked, reportedly by Houthi rebels, with the UAE, United Arab Emirates, saying that the Safine Prism vessel operated by a British-flagged company have responded to distressful calls from that ship and rescued the crew on board after it was reportedly attacked. So we'll keep across any developments there as the situation continues to get resolved by those rescue efforts. Turning, though, to the situation in Texas, and the death toll has now risen to at least 91 after flash floods ripped through Kerr County in the early hours of Friday last week. At least 27 young girls and staff from a Christian summer camp are among the dead, with dozens still missing and search efforts now into a 4th day. President Trump has signed a major disaster declaration as questions mount over whether warnings were timely or effective. And with more storms on the way, flood alerts in place are expected until at least tonight. And Donald Trump is threatening new tariffs for nations aligning with the BRICS alliance, which he says will see anti-American rhetoric. The US president says any country backing BRICS policies made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa will face an additional 10% tariff with no exceptions. His warnings on social media came after BRICS leaders issued a joint statement claiming that rising tariffs were threatening global trade. It also comes as President Trump's administration is racing to finalise a string of new trade deals before a July 9th tariff deadline. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with another update at 8 o'clock. Now, though, let's get back to Martin.
Thank you, Sam. Now, welcome to GBNews Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubner. And we're kicking off the show tonight with some breaking news, and it comes from our man. Now, please go out to Chris Hope. Chris, you've got a sizzling exclusive for us. Tell us more.
That's right, Martin. We're tracking, aren't we, in recent weeks, former Tory MPs jumping ship to reform UK. We know about Dame Andrea Jenkins, the new mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, Marco Longhi in January, more recently Ross Thompson, Scottish Tory MP formerly, Anne-Marie Morris. They've joined in the past 2 weeks. A big name has joined tonight, we can reveal. He's called David Jones. He's a former Tory MP, a former Tory cabinet minister, Welsh secretary under David Cameron, 2012-2014, a Tory member for 50 years, a Brexit department minister when Theresa May was Prime Minister. He's told us in a statement tonight that Reform UK is the party that best represents my views, he says, and I believe some of many others who have become disillusioned with the two major parties. There he is on screen now. Across the country, David Jones says, people are rightly concerned about the rising cost of living, the escalating crisis of illegal immigration and the steady erosion of our national sovereignty. Neither the government nor the official opposition, the Tory party, is addressing those issues with the urgency or resolve they demand. Indeed, the government is actually actively surrendering our sovereignty at an alarming rate. He, of course, was deputy chairman of the European Research Group of Tory MPs, a kind of an absolute prime Spartan Brexiteer, so sovereignty matters to him. Only Reform UK is demonstrating the determination needed to tackle the country's many problems and to improve the lives of people across Britain. Now, he was a North Walian Tory MP. He is not standing for office. Right. He is 72 years old. He served with distinction as an MP. He's a member of the party for 50 years, but he's had enough. And that is fascinating. You have someone here, I think, who is trusted by the Tory right, someone who did a lot of the thinking on the Tory Brexiteer right. And the fact that he's going to Reform UK is alarming, I think, for the modern-day Tory party.
Certainly is. And so just to be resolutely clear, a former Welsh secretary, a heavyweight in the Department for Exit in the European Union under Boris Johnson, would be a huge addition to the active party. There's been a lot of talk about who could be the leader of Reform Wales. You're saying it won't be David Jones because he won't be standing. This is the token, emotional, sentimental defection, as it were, but he won't be actively involved in the front line.
It won't be him, but what I find fascinating viewing it from Westminster, it's like one of those cairns you build when you go walking. You put a stone on a pile and another stone, and it eventually becomes a pile of stones. In a sense here, you've got this pile of Tories, former Tories, piling up in support of Nigel Farage's party. It gives it respectability, it gives it credibility, and that's what I think should be alarming Kevin Badenoch, the Tory leader. But as things stand, I'm sure Nigel Nelson, the guest here tonight, will have more on this. We are seeing Tories go across, but not former Labour people.
Let's just look at the current political landscape in Wales. I think we've got a map of the voting intention we can show. And make no mistake, Wales is central. We can see on your screens there the Reform UK party set to do incredibly well in both the Westminster voting intentions and the Senate voting intentions. Of course, the next set of national elections in May, a year on from council elections, Chris Hope, Wales and Scotland, but particularly Wales, I think, seen as central to the party's continued success. The next measurable in that route towards what Nigel Farage might think is the route to Downing Street. We've got some current voting data just to run through. At present, Reform UK is on 29%. In Wales, Plaid Cymru, you can see there on the coast, Plaid Cymru on 27, Labour 21, the Tories 8%. And an incredible statistic, Chris Hope, is that only 47% of people who voted for the Labour Party at the last general election a year ago are going to vote for Keir Starmer again in a potential future next election for the Welsh Parliament. So all eyes on Wales. Nigel Farage will see Wales as a building block moving forward. This is a big defection tonight.
It is a big deal, and it will give a lot of comfort to other Conservatives who we think Nigel Farage is talking to come across too. So I think, we're not seeing a flood yet, but we are seeing senior people who are respected on the Tory right, though, not elsewhere in politics, only on the Tory right, coming across to Reform UK. Just going back to Wales, I was in there, as you were, in the Reform UK conference when Nigel Farage spoke to his supporters back in September. I was fascinated by what a line he said. He said vividly, there are two words that matter to me right now. It's the DeHont system, DeHont system. And
proportional representation.
And that means in Wales, they're expanding their proportional representation. They're almost doubling the number of AMs, assembly members who can be there, under the DeHont system. And that means the more votes you rack up, the more Senate members you get. And DeHont, the way they're reshaping the electoral system in reform, in Wales, forgive me, is going to really help reform next year.
And it's worth pointing out, on this current modelling before defection, the projection for the Senate for the Welsh Parliament, Reform 34 seats, Plaid Cymru 30, Labour 21, Conservatives 8. That would mean, Nigel Nelson, GBNews, a senior political commentator, not only is this 10 councils that Reform could control, but they could, for the first time, control the country.
Yes, but bear in mind that would be a hung parliament rather than an outright majority. So you would expect some of the others to get together to stop Reform governing. I mean, I'm not taking away their achievement. They're quite clearly on a roll, and I think that David Jones' defection is another sign of that. But really, to make a complete breakthrough, I think that they've got to, first of all, they really need an existing Tory MP to come across to them. And as Chris mentioned, the other point would be to get a Labour bigwig who would also defect, which would take away this idea that it's a battle between left and right.
Do you think that's true, though? I mean, all of the polling, all of the data in Wales in particular shows us that the voters are jumping ship, faster than somebody could slide down Snowdonia away from the Labour Party. Their votes simply collapsed. Less than half of the voters who voted for Keir Starmer in 2024 in July would vote for the Labour Party again. Would a Labour defection actually bring, I don't know, some tainted baggage?
Well, no, I think that the important thing is to actually show that Reform would be a party for the entire country. And a win in Wales would at least show that they can run a country if they ever did. But I don't see, based on these figures, they don't actually end up in overall control. So I'm not sure that we're jumping the gun a bit to think that Reform will actually form the next Welsh government.
And you might find, Chris, so there'd be more chance of a cold day in hell than the Labour Party doing a deal to work in conjunction with Nigel Farage in Wales.
No question. That's what we've heard in the past from previous leaders, and also Plaid Cymru will be similar. So it could be a minority party. We'll wait and see. But this party is going to be tested. As you say, it's baby steps Reform UK, but next May, Wales and to a lesser extent Scotland, where they could keep Labour out, they're going on in current polling.
And do you think that, you talk about baby steps, David Jones retired from the Conservative Party, this is a defection?
As an MP, not from the party.
Right.
So he quit the party last October after 54 years with a letter to the party chairman.
That's right, and he informed me he would not renew his membership in October 2023 and received no reply to that letter, apparently.
According to, he says after 54 years he received no reply from the then chairman, and then he joined Reform UK when his membership lapsed in January.
Meanwhile, Chris, a lot of people speculate, as ever, about could there be a defection, a big beast, as it were,
all sorts of
to
chatter.
the main party in Westminster.
Well, I think what's stopping it happening is the uncertainty over Kemi Badenoch, because I think that all the talk outs in the bars around Westminster is how is she doing? Can she last? She's got a very difficult hand. She hasn't yet given a single speech to the Tory party conference as leader. Don't forget, it hasn't happened yet. She was made leader last November. So she hasn't really been tested, and MPs over there, they can't send letters of a lack of confidence in her until after that deadline passes in early November. So we are really at the very beginning of Kemi Badenoch's time as leader. I think people, because of the uncertainty about her, because it's a really hard hand she's been dealt with by this landslide victory last July. Will she hang around? Will Robert Jenrick come in? James Cleverly? Other names being touted. And if you're an ambitious Tory party MP, why would you jump ship to a new party with the uncertainty of that with Nigel Farage when you may have a new leader within a year in the Tory party?
OK, thank you, gentlemen. I've got a quick line of breaking news for us now, and it's this. Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, has acknowledged that MPs are feeling disheartened and bruised after last week's welfare vote. Speaking at the weekly meeting of MPs and sitting alongside